welcome to the channel. Today, we're looking at 25 shocking Civil War now and then photos. This first image shows the Dunkard Church in Antietam, Maryland, taken in September 1862 after the bloodiest day in US military history. Over 100 years later, the landscape remains almost unchanged. Next, we see Fort Sumter, with a Confederate flag flying outside, captured in South Carolina in 1861, before a 34-hour exchange of fire. After this battle, 86 soldiers surrendered to General Beauregard. In the burnt district of Richmond, Virginia, in April 1865, soldiers were ordered to burn warehouses and armories to prevent their capture. Unfortunately, the fires spread uncontrollably, destroying much of the city. In Washington, the execution of Confederate Captain Henry Wirz took place on November 10, 1865. Wirz had been in charge of the infamous Andersonville prison, where 13,000 Union soldiers died. The next image shows the house of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, who lived here for 30 years before the war. It's now preserved as a memorial to Lee in the Evergreen Cemetery. Originally built in 1854, you can see graves from the Battle of Gettysburg, which claimed 51,000 casualties over 3 days. Moving to 1864, this image captures wounded soldiers sitting beneath an oak tree in Brompton after the Battle of Spotsylvania, where more than 50,000 soldiers endured life-altering injuries. In 1866, we see the site where Confederate General Stonewall Jackson was mortally wounded by friendly fire during the Battle of Chancellorsville, which today is unrecognizable as a highway. In Antietam, 1862, a soldier stands on the freshly dug graves of comrades who were either mortally wounded or killed. This photo was taken near what's now known as Burnside Bridge. Another famous photo, this one from Brandy Station in 1864, shows Union General John Sedgwick's headquarters, believed to be at Farley Plantation, where his staff posed for the photo. Next, we have an image from Gettysburg, showing Widow Thompson's house. Robert E. Lee made this his headquarters during the battle. You can also see Mary Thompson seated, and the building has been carefully preserved to this day. We then visit Cedar Mountain, where Union graves were dug after the battle near Culpeper, where Confederate forces emerged victorious on August 9, 1862. Back to Gettysburg, an iconic photograph by Matthew Brady shows his assistants posing between bullet-riddled trees and Union breastworks. The David R. Miller farmhouse, located on the Antietam battlefield, was used as a Union field hospital during the battle. Despite the intensity of the fighting, the Miller property was largely undamaged. Taken around 1865, this next image shows Carrie Sheed's house, which opened as a private school in 1862 during the Battle of Gettysburg. It became a refuge for Federal soldiers when Union lines collapsed at Seminary Ridge. Today, the house remains a preserved historical site. When General Robert E. Lee finally surrendered, he did so at the McLean House, pictured here with several people on the steps. In 1948, the house was reconstructed based on its original plans after being bought and destroyed in 1891. Little Round Top was the site of intense fighting on July 2, 1863. From its summit, you could see much of Gettysburg, including Cadore Farm, Oak Hill, the Bryan Farm, the copse of trees, and Wheatfield Road. Many of these locations played key roles in the battle. Next, we see the fortifications on Little Round Top, both natural and man-made, built by Union troops on the southern slope of the hill on July 2, 1863. More than 100 years later, the landscape remains largely unchanged. Taken in July 1913, this photo shows veterans and their friends posing in front of the 91st Pennsylvania Monument on Little Round Top, marking the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. It was a powerful reunion for those who fought in the battle. In the same year, another photo captures veterans examining the Gouverneur K. Warren monument on Little Round Top. Behind them stands the 91st Pennsylvania Monument, honoring the soldiers who fought at this critical location. In 1862, you can see Federal cavalry facing Confederate children at Sudley Springs Ford in Virginia. This was the site of the first major land battle of the Civil War. In Alexandria, there's an image of a slave auction house, which was the second largest slave center in the United States. It was abandoned when Union soldiers entered the city. In May 1861, the next image shows a Federal encampment along the Pamunkey River in Virginia, taken in May 1862 at Cumberland Landing. It was a major staging area for Union troops that year. Then we see the President's box at Ford's Theater, photographed at the time of Lincoln's assassination in 1865. Just 5 days after General Lee's surrender, the theater was closed for over 100 years, reopening in 1968. Here, you can see Elizabeth Proctor Thomas seated alongside Civil War veterans from the Battle of Fort Stevens at the dedication of the stone monument. This marks the spot where President Abraham Lincoln was under enemy fire during the battle on July 12, 1864. Officers of the 3rd Massachusetts Heavy Artillery are shown posing with Fort Totten's 100-pounder Parrott rifle, which was used to defend Washington, D.C. during the war. Finally, in Fort Carroll, located in Baltimore Harbor, this image shows the fort's northeast section, an important part of the Union's defense strategy to protect the city from Confederate naval threats. Like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.